Namaskaram. Welcome to our country, our heroes, our pride, as we celebrate Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. In this program, my students of Kalasagara UK will talk about their favorite heroes whose incredible sacrifices contributed to the freedom of this great nation. On the 13th and 14th of August, we will be presenting the life and contributions of 8 such patriots. On the 15th of August, my young students of Kalasagara UK will perform a patriotic composition by Kavi Subramanya Bharati. These programs can be watched on the YouTube channel of Palam Arts and on my Facebook page, Usha Raghavan. Join us in offering our pranams to these great heroes as we celebrate the 75th year of Indian independence. Vande Mataram.
Namaskar. Welcome to Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. And today, together, we pay respects to the great leader, Bal Gangadhar Tilak.
स्वराज्य हा माझा जन्मसिद्ध हक्क आहे आणि तो मी मिळवणारच. With his electrifying slogan, Swaraj is my birthright and I shall have it, Lokmanya Bal Gangadhar Tilak stirred the Indian people and breathed new life into our struggle of independence. Born on 23rd July 1856 in Ratnagiri, Maharashtra, Tilak, besides a freedom fighter, was a committed social reformer, writer and a teacher. Tilak quoted, माणूस स्वभावाने कितीही चांगला असला तरी शिक्षणाने त्याचा विकास झाल्याशिवाय देशाची उन्नती होऊ शकत नाही. Meaning, no matter how good a person is by nature, the country cannot prosper without its development through education. With a goal in mind to improve education, Tilak, along with his friends, co-founded New English School in 1880. To spread nationalist ideas and protect Indian culture, they formed the Deccan Education Society, which established the renowned Fergusson College in Pune, Maharashtra. Tilak was a great scholar of mathematics and Sanskrit, although he left teaching to become a journalist so that he could focus on his fight for freedom. The fearless writer co-published 2 newspapers, Kesari in Marathi language and Maratha in English. Lokmanya Tilak stood up and said that the then so-called good government was no substitute for self-government. Swaraj, he therefore said, is our birthright. People should not have to earn it, since every person is born with the right to be free. He believed that the Indian society can be best be reformed by Indians themselves, and objected to any colonial interference in reforming Hindu society. It was Tilak who was instrumental in transforming the private household festival of Ganesh Chaturthi into a public celebration. It was a creative use of a religious festival for the larger cause of nation building and social mobilization. Tilak understood the pulse of the masses. He was given the title of Lokmanya, which means beloved leader of the people. Swaraj and boycott movement gained unpopularity amongst the foreign rulers, and Tilak was sentenced to jail for 6 years for supporting Indian freedom fighters. During his time in jail, Tilak wrote the book Gita Rahasya. After returning from jail, he founded the Home Rule League and united with his fellow nationalists. Tilak waged a spirited campaign against the colonial rule and was against the Congress party's moderate approach. The trio of Lokmanya Tilak, Lala Lajpat Rai and Bipin Chandra Pal was famously called as Lal Bal Pal.
Today we talk about Atmanirbhar Bharat. This is a Tilak's legacy that is carried forward. It must be also recalled social and political reformers like it is therefore with great pride and joy as a part of 75 years of independence, we celebrate the memory of Lokmanya. Jai Hind.
Namaste. As part of our celebration of 75 years of Indian independence from British rule and remembering the men and women who contributed to this historical event, let us pay a tribute to one such exemplary woman, Srimati Sarojini Naidu. Sarojini Naidu was an Indian political activist and poet who was also a strong proponent of women's rights, and she played an active role in India's struggle for independence. Naidu's work as a poet earned her the title Nightingale of India, or Bharat Kokila, that was bestowed by Mahatma Gandhi because of the color, imagery, and lyrical quality of her poetry. The Nightingale of India was born Sarojini Chattopadhyay in the year 1879 to a Bengali family living in Hyderabad. She was educated in Madras, which is present-day Chennai, as well as King's College London and Cambridge on the basis of a scholarship that was provided to her by the Nizam of Hyderabad. She was the eldest of 8 siblings and her parental home was in present-day Bangladesh. Her father held a doctorate in science and her mother was a Bengali poet. When she returned to Hyderabad after her education in England, she married a general physician, Dr. Govindraju Naidu. Early in her political career, Sarojini Naidu was seen as a strong orator and an advocate for women's right to education. While in England, she actively campaigned for the right to vote for women, and following this, she joined the Indian National Congress's movement for India's independence from the British rule. She was a keen follower of Mahatma Gandhi and his idea of non-violence and Swaraj. She became the second woman president of the Indian National Congress. She was also jailed twice during her participation in the Quit India movement against British rule. Her writing career began at the age of 12. Her poetry was primarily written in English and included both children's poems as well as topics such as patriotism, which were influenced by her own political career. When India achieved independence, she was appointed the governor of the United Provinces, becoming the first woman governor in the Dominion of India. Sarojini Naidu is memorialized in the Golden Threshold, which is an off-campus annex of the University of Hyderabad, and it is named after her first collection of poetry, which is Golden Threshold. This now houses the Sarojini Naidu School of Arts and Communication at the University of Hyderabad. With her powerful voice and her strong presence, Naidu remains one of the most respected and applauded women freedom activists of India. And as a poet, she demonstrated her ability to fight against oppression through the concept of her words and non-violence. A lesson that is as relevant now as it was in the past. Thank you, Sarojini Naidu, for all your contributions. Jai Hind.
நமஸ்தே. ஆடுவோமே பள்ளு பாடுவோமே ஆனந்த சுதந்திரம் அடைந்து விட்டோம் என்று. These are the famous lines from Mahakavi Subramanya Bharatiyar, who envisioned Indian independence much before we have got it. With his quote, let me welcome you all to this episode of Our Country Heroes, where we are going to celebrate the braveness of Indian women, Velu Nachiyar, who fought for our Indian independence. Velu Nachiyar, the little-known queen from Tamil Nadu, was the first Indian woman to fight and triumph against British. She did this in 1780, 77 years before the First War of Indian Independence. Popularly known as Veeramangai, brave woman, she was the first Indian queen to fight against East India Company. Velu Nachiyar was the princess of Ramanathapuram and the only child of King Chellamuthu Vijaya Raghunatha Sethupathi and Queen Sakandi Muttathal of the Ramnad Kingdom. She was an only child. The royal couple thus raised her as they would have raised a male heir. She was trained in horse riding, archery, and martial arts such as Valari, throwing sickle, and Silambam fighting with a stake. The British invaded Sivagangai with the son of Nawab of Arcot and killed Velunachiya's husband in what is known as Kalayar Kovil War. She was forced to flee her kingdom with her daughter. She found safe haven at Virupachi in Dindikal and lived there for 8 years under the sanctuary of Gopalanayakar. During her stay in Dindikal, Velu Nachiyar met Hyder Ali, the Sultan, and then the ruler of Mysore. She conversed with him in Urdu and highly impressed him with her courage and perseverance. This led to her garnering unwavering support not just from Gopalanayakar but also from Hyder Ali, who pledged to be her ally in her fight against British. She was invited by Sultan to stay at the Dindukal fort, where she was respected like the queen she was before. Then Velu Nachiyar assembled a powerful army to drive away the British. 1780 was the year Velu Nachiyar bravely defeated the British in a brilliantly formulated coup. Her intelligence gathering agents found out where the British had stored their ammunition. A suicide attack was then devised to destroy all of it. After her victory over the British, Velu Nachiyar reigned over the Sivagangai kingdom for a decade. She made her daughter Vellachi Nachiyar heir through the throne. The Mardu brothers, her fellow escapees from the Kalayar Kovil War, were given administrative positions in the kingdom. Vellachi, Velu Nachiyar's daughter, succeeded her to the throne and ruled from 1790 to 1793. The 66-year-old valiant queen passed away in 1796 in Sivagangai, her beloved kingdom. She had been suffering from heart problems and had been treated even in France. The late J. Jayalalitha, former Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, inaugurated the Veeramangai Velu Nachiyar Memorial in Sivagangai on 18 July 2014. A 6-feet bronze statue of the Queen was also erected, and it was announced that January 3rd would be celebrated as the birth anniversary of the undaunted Queen, who shattered gender roles as early as 18th century. Today, Sivaganga district is the educational hub of South India, where the Alagappa University and Engineering College is present. I am a proud alumni of that college and feeling so honored to talk about the brave warrior from my own birthplace. Bharat Mata Ki Jai.
Namaskaram, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Our Country, Our Heroes, Our Pride. Today, we speak about Alluri Sitaramaraju, also known as Manyam Veeruru, meaning hero of the jungle. Alluri Sitaramaraju was born on 4th of July 1897 to Venkatramaraju, a professional photographer, and Suryanarayanamma, a homemaker, in village called Mogallu near Bhimavaram in Andhra Pradesh. It is said that Sitaramaraju completed his initial days of schooling in his native village and then shifted to Vishakhapatnam for his higher studies. By age of 18, he renounced all worldly pleasures and became a sannyasi. It is also noted that he mastered the literature of Telugu, Sanskrit, Hindi, English languages. He took particular interest in astrology, herbalism, palmistry, and equestrianism before becoming a sannyasi at the age of 18. Indicative of his future as a leader, Alluri in his high school days was often found riding distant places, familiarizing himself with various problems being faced by different tribes who were then living under British colonial rule. He was particularly moved by seeing the hardships of the Koyas, people of the hill tribe. Fond of pilgrimage, in 1921, he visited Gangotri and Nasik, birthplaces of the holy rivers, Ganga and Godavari. During his travels in the country, he met revolutionaries in Chittagong. On seeing the socio-economic conditions of people, particularly those of tribals, he was severely appalled and decided to build a movement for the independence from British rule. He then settled down in Papi Hills near Godavari district, an area with high density of tribal population. During this time, the efforts of Christian missionaries to gain converts by any means amongst the hill tribes annoyed him, as he saw it as a tool to perpetuate imperialism. Noting the grievances of tribals and finding solutions to their problems, he started to organize and educate them about their rights and prepared them for fight against the oppression and tyranny of forest and revenue officials, missionaries, and the police. During the forest terrains, he gained extensive knowledge of the geographical features, which helped him in his future as a guerrilla warfare. Alluri Sitaramaraju is very famously known for his Rampa rebellion in the year 1922. So this rebellion was against the British rule. The Rampa administrative system was home to about 28,000 tribes. These tribes followed the Podu agricultural system, whereby every year some amounts of forest tracts were cleared for cultivation, as it was their only source for food. While for the tribes, the forests were essential for their survival, the British wanted to evict them so that they could plunder these areas for wood, which would eventually help in building their railways and ships. To get the forest cleared, the Madras Forest Act 1882 was passed, thereby restricting free movement of the tribal communities and prohibiting them from engaging in their traditional Podu agricultural system. This oppressive order was the beginning of the tribal revolt, also known as the Manyam Rebellion. Tribal folk refused to work as forced labor in the construction of roads and railways in the hilly region. Sitaramaraju demanded justice for them. He used guerrilla warfare to fight against the British. Along with his army of tribal people, he launched attacks and raided numerous police stations, killed many British officers, and stole arms and ammunition for their battle. He had plenty of local support and hence successfully evaded the British for a long time. His 2-year armed struggle against the British frustrated the authorities to such an extent that a reward of 10,000 was announced for anyone who could capture him dead or alive. Meanwhile, the British continued to inflict misery on the tribals. In a bid to alleviate their suffering, and being the just man that he was, Sitaramaraju surrendered with the expectation that he would be given a fair trial in return. However, on capture on 7th of May 1924, he was treacherously trapped, tied to a tree, and shot dead. He was cremated on the 8th of May, thus marking the glorious end of his fight against the British government. Alluri has left behind an inspiring legacy of anti-imperialist rebellion. Every year, government of Andhra Pradesh commemorates his birthday, the 4th of July, as state festival. Historian David Arnold, in his book, The Rebellious Hillman, talks about all what Alluri has achieved. The tribals would evoke the image of Rama in Alluri, an honorary which, despite being a religious man, he never asked for. The independent Indian government released a postal stamp in his honor at the village of Mogallu, considered by many to be his birthplace. Very recently, in 2022, government of Andhra Pradesh carved out a new district named after Alluri from the erstwhile Visakhapatnam district, with Paderu as its headquarters. On 4th of July 2022, Prime Minister Narendra Modi unveiled 30-feet bronze statue of this freedom fighter on his 125th birth anniversary in Bhimavaram as part of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. Alluri Sitaramaraj's story teaches us values of patriotism, sacrifice for motherland, and commitment to freedom. I truly hope and wish that younger generation are inspired by values instilled by our freedom fighters. I would like to thank the audience for listening in. Jai Hind.